Mrs. Abbi Smith is our incoming head of high school.
Sure. My name is Abbi Smith. I grew up in Alaska, in Anchorage, Alaska, and ended up moving to Texas to do my undergraduate work. I have a degree in physics with a minor in math. I made my way to the East Coast after I graduated and settled in Philadelphia, where I married, and I have two sons who are in third grade and fifth grade right now, and ended up at Friend Select School, which is a Quaker school, a pre-K through 12 Quaker school in the middle of downtown Philadelphia. I was hired as a math teacher, and I've taught math for the past 17 years there. And I've also taken on more administrative roles there. So I currently serve as the Associate Director of Upper School, and have served in a number of capacities there, like a department chair and an academic dean as well. Yeah, my sons are very excited. They were initially very shocked and a little bit upset. They thought that they would be at the current school that they're at forever. And they ended up having a visit day at Sanford School in the lower school and the middle school, and they fell in love with it. And they loved their day, they loved the students, they loved the teachers, they loved the space. And so at this point, they're seeing it as an adventure, and they're very excited. They're sad to leave their friends, but it's pretty close to Philadelphia, and so they'll still be able to maintain those relationships. I read nonstop. So I'm constantly reading a fiction book, and I generally read on my Kindle, and so half the time I don't even know the title or the author's names of the books I read. But I've been going back and rereading a lot of my past favorite books recently. So in the past year, I went back and reread Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, which has always been one of my favorite books, and it just reaffirmed how much I loved it when I reread it. And I've also been reading Milan Kundera books, who I love. So I just reread The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which is a book I love. And right now I'm also reading, in the middle of reading a Murakami book. And he's an author that I really love. And the name's called The Colorless Tsukuro Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage. It's a long title, but it's a really wonderful book, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I like a lot of different genres. I would say that my guilty pleasure movies are always 1980s type movies like The Breakfast Club, anything with Molly Ringwald in it. Those are my go-to guilty pleasures. I also love sci-fi movies, and I have a special interest in just sci-fi literature and sci-fi movies in general. Blade Runner is probably one of my favorite movies. Not the new one, but the old one, the original Blade Runner. I also love kind of big epic dramas. I love The Color Purple. That's one of my favorite movies. Right now, I often will go to the movies with my sons, and so a lot of superhero movies, sometimes movies that are not the best, but I do try to get some Netflix watching in at home as well. My first impression about Sanford was when I first interviewed with Mark Anderson, and the things that I feel are really, really important today in a high school and with teaching and learning are the things that Mark talked about with me. Teaching for the whole of life, making sure that students lead balanced lives and that there's more to the world than just prepping for college. And while academics need to be strong, and that's very important to me personally, that we see students as whole beings and as beings that we want to educate not just the mind, but also emotionally and maturity-wise, to make sure that they can go out and graduate and do good into the world and feel competent once they graduate high school. When I visited the school, the thing that struck me with every single meeting that I had was the sense of community, and it just seems like a community where everyone respects each other, where people are happy to be here and support each other, and there's such a positive vibe and a closeness in the community that I was really attracted to. Yeah, Friend Select does have a Mandarin program, and it's a pretty vibrant program there. Coming into Sanford, my first goal is to really learn what the curriculum is and listen to what the needs are and what the wants are of all departments and what the students desire. So I wouldn't say that I have any designs to bring things directly to Sanford. I would say that if that's something that's really needed and it's something that's really wanted and that there's interest behind it, that it's certainly something that I would want to explore and talk about, because I agree with you that Mandarin is a very important language to learn throughout the world right now. Yeah. So I was originally a math teacher, a full-time math teacher, and in my second year at Friend Select, I was approached to be a grade dean. And so initially, I think it wasn't something that I sought after, but I was encouraged and I was mentored by my current upper school director then to think about leadership. And once you start to take on a little bit of leadership, you know pretty quickly whether you feel that it's something you want to continue doing or not. Independent schools really do give people the option of having your foot in both worlds. So you can be a teacher and also take on leadership roles. And so I would say that during my time at Friend Select, I was able to keep growing and encouraged to keep growing every single year and to try new challenges. And taking on more of an administrative role is a big challenge. There's a lot of balls in the air at any one time. There are some fairly complex issues that arise. Lots of problem solving is needed. Lots of collaboration is needed. And those are things that I was really attracted to and that really excited me. So, you know, slowly and gradually, I moved from being a full-time teacher and slowly into what will now be next year a full-time administrator. Share that I'm really excited. With every time I visit the campus, I grow more and more excited about being part of this community. It feels like such a family already, and I know so few people, so I can only imagine what it feels like to really be a part of this community. So I'm just really excited to hit the ground running. I want the community to know how open I am to listening, and that really when I get here, I'd like to have a conversation and meet with everyone in this community so that I can really get to know how people feel about it, where it's been, where it's going, where it is right now. And so I hope the community will know how open my door is and that I really would welcome conversations with anybody.
I'm excited about our new head of upper school. Mrs. Smith seems like she'll be a great listener. She's enthusiastic. She's a really hard worker. She's willing to work hard at learning kind of the Sanford way of doing things, but she has so much, a lot of good experiences in her background that will help her to, I think, be a very successful administrator here at Sanford. I am looking forward to working with her. She has a math background. She taught a lot of math classes before she became an administrator, so that will be fun to work with her because she's taught so many different math classes. And she seems like she'll be a great listener. And her present school is similar to Sanford in many ways, so I think it should be a smooth transition. And I am really looking forward to working with her.
I'm jumping ahead. I want to publicly thank, and I've said it a few times, Ms. Casto. Ms. Casto's been our head of high school for 5 years and has done a really nice job. I'm sad to lose her, but she's moving on to her own headship. She's going to run a school in Ohio, which she's going to do great at that as well. So she's leaving both a good legacy and some big shoes to fill. So I met Ms. Smith a little more than a year ago, and she's coming to us with some really great background and administrative experience as well as teaching experience. She was a physics teacher before becoming an administrator and is now the assistant head at Friend Select in Philly. I think you all will see some similarities with Miss Smith and Miss Casto. I think every person has his or her own style, right? Personality. I think, like Miss Casto, I think she's going to be a strong leader. I think she's a strong presence. And I also think she's going to be really warm to this place. And I think that's the trick of being a trick. That's a key part of leadership is you have to be both warm and caring, but also firm and strong enough to know that people know when times are tough that you'll make the right, but at times tough call. It's a good question. And obviously when you have somebody come in from the outside and comes from and we're all part of the same big universe of independent schools. I think that she's going to have ideas and experiences that maybe we don't have internally. Chinese is a good example of that. Right, to teach Mandarin. Well, I haven't worked at a school where we've offered Mandarin. She has. I'd love to learn more about the pros and cons of that. So I think with that comes a lot of opportunity. I would say from what you will see as a student as you go into your senior year, will she bring a lot of changes? I would say probably not from the get-go. I think leaders who show up and try to make too many changes too quickly end up burning bridges more than they are successful, because it takes time. It takes time to learn about a place and build relationships before you really even know what you do. Sometimes I watch leaders, whether they're division heads, like we're talking about Miss Smith, or heads of school, who come to a place and they think, oh, I'm gonna figure out what I want to do right away, and then start making changes that are pretty major, pretty fast, and often they don't last too long because schools take a little bit more time.
Sanford News Network, Brian Wang reporting.